Hey there everybody, it's Mark Curley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. Today we're going to be learning how to draw futuristic armor. Now I did a video on sort of medieval type armor a while back, and that one focused a lot on the line-by-line structure of the drawing. This time I'm going to focus more on the details and the shading that comes in at the end of the process. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so I've got most of my basic guidelines in place, and I just want to explain here because I think a lot of people will look at this and say, well, do you expect us to draw what you just drew? And you did it all in time-lapse? That's ridiculous. No, I do not expect you to draw exactly what I've just drawn here. A couple of things. I feel like in the realm of futuristic armor, everyone should come up with their own design. That's why I didn't want to sit here and say, here, put this line here and put this line here. Come up with your own design. No one can tell you what is a good design and what is a bad design. It's entirely up to you, right? And the other thing is, like I said before, I've done an awful lot of videos that focus on the structural lines because that is, to be honest, the most difficult part usually. Starting with the blank page, and I did want to try at least one where we focus more on the details. Speaking of which, that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to zoom in here on this area of the helmet and show you how to refine this sketchy area into something a little more detailed. So this design is inspired quite a bit by the sort of halo-type futuristic armor. I did want to make sure that it wasn't just a total copy of that style of armor, but you do see this sort of big visor area, and I decided to split it into sort of two side-by-side sections with almost looks like a mohawk maybe coming up here on the top. And another thing that I've decided to do just to sort of mix it up a little is to get a sort of telescope type visor thing in here that I imagine the character might be able to flip down from above or something like that. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense within the realm of sci-fi. But this just sort of shows you how you can take a fairly basic structure and begin to add extra details to it that will take it to a higher level. I've decided to give almost like a wing-type structure coming up off the side of the head. Oh, and I should note, a lot of you have probably noticed that I put down a very noticeable dark gray tone, a wash in watercolor before I even began this illustration. And the reason I did that is towards the end I'm going to use white gouache to add highlights and so forth. And if you start with a dark gray area to begin with, then those white highlights will really pop and show up much more clearly. So I've decided that my design of futuristic armor has basically the two areas. There's the armored section, the very even, strong, bold areas that are true armor, and then more flexible cloth-like area down here. And for me, those I've decided will always have these lines, these sort of horizontal lines that separate them from, it sort of divides visually your drawing into two separate subsections. There I go using the word subsections again. What is with the word subsection? It's the new indicate. But I find it more interesting if you find that the entire surface of your design looks similar, that it's all made up of one thing, somehow it just becomes visually boring. Whereas if you're able to divide into, think of there being two types of surface, and then you divide the surface of your armor into those two different types, like in my case, this more smooth armor surface, and then these subdivided areas, that it just makes it more visually interesting. Then there is a central portion here. I think if we're still within the video frame that I can talk a little bit about the chest area. The chest plate area is divided right down the middle by a central triangular structure Again, you know, I feel everyone should come up with their own design, but if you are starting from the beginning looking for pointers on how to design one of these things, I think it's helpful to have a central structure like this that divides the two sides, and then everything else builds off of that. Like I've come up with a kind of collarbone type of a structure here that goes across, almost creates like a cape type of a feeling. And again, I think I'm going to have to move on. I'll maybe show you real time one more subsection of this illustration, and then we're going to start moving into the more finishing touches, which, like I say, I want to be the focus of this video. So I thought I'd show you this section of the arm here and how it also is going to follow that same idea of the two types of surfaces. And this whole area in here around the elbow is going to be, like I said, these sort of horizontal lines. And what I do is sort of connect them together with seams almost, so it looks like it's, you know, maybe not cloth, but some sort of highly durable plastic or something that... Now, people who are experts in armor might say, Mark, you're leaving the elbow uncovered. That's ridiculous. That's the most, that needs to be guarded the most of all. And, you know, I'll confess, I did not undertake a great detailed study of actual armor. Maybe I should have before embarking on something like this. But I'm kind of sort of theorizing that in the elbow area and down here in the wrist area, that's where you're going to need a little bit of flexibility. Am I right? Huh? A little flexibility here in futuristic Brooklyn, where we need futuristic armor to defend ourselves against the futuristic mafia. In any case, I decided that these two areas down at the wrist and at the elbow are where we're going to repeat some of that. And then you're going to see later on when I start adding toning that area, this area, these two areas will be darker, and then the armor areas will be lighter. That's another way of sort of organizing the surface so as to make your drawing a little more appealing. I'll just quickly do the fingers here, not going into great detail. One of the nice things about doing armor, a hand that's covered with armor, is you don't have to worry so much about the anatomy, and everything gets very squared off, and I just feel like I can sort of dash it in and not worry too much about proportions and so forth when I'm doing a robotic-looking hand like this. For me, anyway, I feel like I'm much more relaxed than if I'm drawing an actual hand where I have to really, you know, focus on making every finger the right length and size and so forth. Well, I think I've done hopefully enough of showing you how I refine my basic structure into something with a little more detail. Now I'm going to move on to adding the final line work with my trusty black Prismacolor, and that'll sadly also have to be in time-lapse, but then we're going to start doing a lot of real-time of adding shading and toning, and that I think you will find quite useful for not just a drawing like this, but for any number of illustrations that you might do. All right, well, now we're finally going to move on to the real focus of this video, those of you who are still watching, because I think a lot of people have thrown down their pencils in disgust. I can't keep up with this! But I did want to do a more advanced video, and what I'm doing now is adding watercolor to this area that I described as the sort of more flexible area, less armor-covered area. And so you could use magic marker if you want for this. It doesn't have to be watercolor. I'm very comfortable with watercolor, but I know a lot of people find it hard to work with. I'm also going to do the visor in that color. But hopefully you'll begin to see how doing this begins to make your illustration a little more interesting by breaking it into at least two different sections, subdivided subsections. You just make it a little more visually organized somehow, that if the entire surface looks as if it's made of the same material, or if it's all the same color or whatever, that is just, it becomes a little flat looking. So that is why I'm going in like this to all of these little areas that I think of as some sort of highly advanced durable plastic, the spandex of the future. I'm probably using the word spandex incorrectly there. Someone was saying, no, that is not, that's lycra. It's not spandex, man. Will you please figure out what word you mean? In any case, I'm almost done with all of these areas, and then I'm going to start using the shading to more indicate shadow, light and shadow. This whole thing is just sort of color almost. But now I'm going to go in with just a little light gray to start coloring in certain areas. And here's a little tip for you. I've got a piece of sort of tissue that I can dab away. If you are doing watercolor, that's a useful way of controlling how dark something gets. But I've decided the light source is from the upper right, which is a little different from usual. I usually have the upper left, don't I? Just mixing it up all over the place today, man. And going all along this left edge with a light tone of gray. And what's going to happen at the sort of last part of this video is I'm going to go in with white gouache. And these two things together are going to create an illusion of light falling upon this character. And so, I mean, I do hope that people watching this video can maybe see it as giving you pointers on futuristic armor, but also providing you with a general technique that you could apply to any number of things that you want to look three-dimensional. And if you do end up liking the way this looks, you can follow step by step the basic process of beginning with a gray wash. That's very key. Or a gray piece of paper. Sometimes you get an off-color, off-white piece of paper to begin with, and then you've got this tone to build off of. Either way, starting that way, then adding just a little bit of shadow, whether it's with markers or in my case watercolor, all along one edge of it. And then when you come in at the end with the white gouache I'll be pulling out soon, it really does help. It does create a nice sort of 3D quality that cannot generally be achieved without some sort of gray or off-white surface that's there at the start. So I think we're pretty much done with this. I think I do have to sort of build up a little extra dark. Sometimes you have to work back into areas that you had already toned to sort of complete that effect of shadow. And I think we're ready for that last, hopefully, transformative technique. It's going to be a big letdown if it doesn't work. After I've been talking it up. Oh, wait till you see this thing with the gouache, man. It's so awesome. And then I do it, and everyone's like, huh? That doesn't look awesome at all, man. But I think it is time to move on to that. So I'm going to go ahead and change brushes, and we're going to be back for the final part of the video. All right, so I've grabbed my tube of white gouache here, available at any art store that you go to, and I'm taking a brush and, with a little bit of water, straight out of the tube almost. I'm going to use this to, almost, it is straight out of the tube, what am I saying? I am using this to start adding these white highlights, or although I don't know if it's even highlights, it's just sort of like this is the lit surface of the armor all the way around. So as you can see, because we had a gray tone down there to begin with, this really starts to pop. Now I can't do this entire thing real time, or the video will just go on forever. But I'll do just the beginning here. Hopefully enough that you can see the effect starting to take hold and get a sense of, the amount of time that I'm taking to do it. But it requires a little bit of advanced planning. I mean, you have to know what your light source is, and I generally hold off and do the white gouache last, because if you're working on top of it, you know how hard it is to keep the surface of your page clean, right? Well, gouache, if you start working and doing something else after you've put the white gouache down, you will very quickly start smudging up or getting dirt on that white area, and you're going to have to go back and redo it. So I think most artists generally, if they know they're going to be doing this sort of gouache technique, they will hold off and do it at the very end of the process. So what do you think? Are you starting to see what I'm talking about? How this adding these little white highlights is beginning to make him pop off the page and seem a little more three-dimensional. Now, again, I think this video has already gone on for quite a long time, so I'm going to finish this up in time-lapse, but hopefully you get the basic idea of how the technique is done, and then we'll come back to maybe have a few final words. All right, well, there you have my technique. I hope you can use it in illustrations of your own. And let me just tell you, this illustration is not done. I have not done the background yet. I'm going to do that at the very end of the video, so stick around if you want to see how that turns out. But I want to reassure anyone who has subscribed to me hoping to see the Realism Challenge videos, I will be doing more of those, possibly even within the next week or two. So thanks for your patience. But for now, let me thank anyone who has supported me by getting any one of my books. We've got the Brody's Ghost series, 3 books in that series so far. Miki Falls, all 4 of those books already out and available. And finally, Mastering Manga, my How to Draw Manga book. I really do appreciate you supporting me by getting my books or just watching the videos and telling friends about them. But for now, let me lay down the pencil, although I'll be picking it back up again to finish off this illustration. But for now, I should end it by saying thanks for watching this video, and I'll be back with another one real soon.